The question you need to answer is what you want to do with your life, given that you don't have the time to do everything. Do you want to spend most of your life paying off the interest of a 30-year mortgage and working so you can fill increasingly bigger houses with increasingly more stuff while being stuck in the daily commute in increasingly nicer cars? Are you prepared to give up the stuff so that you can do whatever you want, whenever and wherever, within reason? What will your legacy be? What you owned, or who you were? Welcome back to another episode of the Legends of the FIRE movement, where I take a deep dive into how they did it. Today we are looking at the story of Jacob Lund Fisker, who is one of the early adopters of the FIRE movement and started one of the first FIRE blogs called Early Retirement Extreme. Jacob later turned the ideas of his blog into one of the classic FIRE books called Early Retirement Extreme, a philosophical and practical guide to financial independence. He reached financial independence at the age of 33. How did he do it? Let's find out. Jacob holds a degree in physics and mathematics and also holds a PhD in theoretical physics. After graduating, he worked as an astrophysicist and famously was able to save up to 80% of his income. When Jacob started working, his income began to increase and he initially began to save in a savings account. Later on, he began investing the money in the stock market to generate a return on his money, and quickly realised that due to his low living expenses, he would be able to live off the income generated from his investments. The FIRE blog is born. Jacob started the Early Retirement Extreme blog in around 2007, which was one of the first FIRE blogs in which he discussed ideas around radical frugalism and simple living, such as living in a trailer and how he managed to keep his annual expenses down to under $8,000. He considered himself retired when he left his career as an astrophysicist at age 33, having accumulated a net worth of 25 times his annual expenses. Fisker released a book under the same name as his blog in 2010, which contained a mathematical study of the impact of savings rate on a person's ability to retire, which has now become commonplace in the FIRE movement. Sustainable living. Jacob is a huge proponent of sustainable living. I quote, "We have an economic model that is based on pulling resources out of the ground and mostly turning them into unnecessary products, getting people to buy the products by convincing them that they need them, then getting them to throw the products away because they are obsolete. This makes people buy the next model and bury the other one in the ground. The sole goal of this seemingly pointless exercise is to work faster and grow the gross domestic product, which measures the resource churn." In the last decade, the FIRE movement concept has continued to gain traction and spread far and wide, mainly via online communities through the sharing of information through blogs, podcasts and online forums. It's become particularly popular with millennials, but a huge amount of credit must go to the work and ideas of Jacob, which, as far as I can see, is where a number of these ideas started out. People were ready for a new path. After the Great Recession, many millennials found themselves questioning the stories that they had been fed about how life should go and became disillusioned with the status quo. Taking on large amounts of debt, working for our whole adult life for a company to allow us to live a life of waste and consumption to just about keep up with the Joneses no longer appealed to large amounts of the millennial population. Out of this desire to live a more intentional, simple and meaningful life came a whole new set of ideas about how people could approach life. I think it's because of this searching for a different path in life that people were so open to the ideas of the Early Retirement Extreme blog. Jacob's approach is definitely not for everyone, and as the name suggests, his ideas are at the extreme end of lean FI, but you certainly have to admire his individual thinking and pioneering of many of the ideas of the FIRE movement. I will leave you with this final quote from Jacob. "The question you need to answer is what you want to do with your life, given that you don't have the time to do everything."